Gilbert Man, Delifu, east southeast 31 knots.
Ooh. And if anybody is in Lifu, boy, it's windy there. 31 knots. Was that? How did you get that? Was that
Those
from
are actuals.
the actuals? Wow. Good propagation by the look of the what the power is going out. Lupan, Kalinga. Well, good morning, everybody. It is now bang on 7:15. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH286. Patricia and David, good morning to you all. We have had an absolutely stunning weekend down here. All you guys I know are going to be moaning and grizzling about your strong winds, but boy, this high has been sitting over New Zealand, basking in sunshine, no wind, absolutely glorious. Everybody was outside for the weekend, no matter where they were. Whilst I do feel sympathy for you up on the outskirts of the big high with its strong winds, I tell you what, it was absolutely glorious here. I think I will actually put a couple of pictures on the gallery of the website because, well, there is water. It might be fresh water at Lake Taupo. But, oh, it was lovely. Not high temperatures, 18 degrees or so, but just tranquil blue sky, sunshine, no wind. You couldn't ask for anything better. And boy, did the countryside look glorious, which is just as well it looked glorious because it gave you something to do whilst you stopped for roadworks. But all of the blossoms, because there's been no wind lately, all of the cherry trees were out absolutely smothered. And also magnolias and boy, the rhododendrons in some places were absolutely glorious too. I've never seen so many cherry trees. I suppose it might just be the fact I haven't been down country. That's just, you know, you have to be catch it for a day if it's a windy season. But these have all just come out and look absolutely beautiful. And for some reason, people now on farms and so on, they plant some trees that are not productive, like the flowering cherry trees, which didn't used to do. You used to just get things that actually produce something. But boy, the flowering cherry trees look beautiful, and of course all the trees are starting to be green. So it just was a beautiful drive, and we had a great weekend away. We had a day on the track at Taupo, and then a shooting day yesterday. Again, David's got me really quite keen on this beach shooting from 100 metres. Well, anyway, I better give you some news from the weather. A lot of people grizzly, but I've just seen the report from Lupan today. They're in Falanga, and the wind down there is only 10 to 12 from the southeast, 50% cloud cover. But further north in Fiji, what a lot of grizzlies. Whistler have reported 15 to 20 southeast, 30% cloud cover, 1019.4 at Nananu Ifake, and yesterday 20 to 25, gusting 35. Valak, just a nice fresh report, and thank you very much, you guys. 11 to 16 southeast, gusting 18 to 20. 50% cirrostratus and 1020, so those two are in agreement. So yeah, it's definitely not all that great on the outskirts. We have got 14, well it's 15 now, 15 degrees, so definitely warming up. 1025.8 and dropping, you'll be pleased to know. That high is moving off. 5 knots from the west and 100% cloud cover now today. As things start to show some life moving off. But no complaints because we really have had a really good weekend. Big news for those of you coming to New Zealand. The marina folk in Whangarei have just advised that their application for a new marina, 130 berths, has been approved. So that's quite exciting for Whangarei and the cruising world in particular. This $11 million new marina, which includes actually this approval, a reclamation of 4,500 square metres, is just off the Port Road. For those that know Whangarei, it's going to be on the seaward side of the Te Matau Bridge. That's that bridge with the big thing in the middle that looks like the end of a canoe. It will be run by the same folk, the Whangarei Management Trust. They already have 177 berths, so this will add another 130. So great news from Whangarei. Thank you, Sharon, for passing that on if you are listening. So that is much needed actually, because it is a major area for boating, especially our size boating in New Zealand, but it's also a very big commercial area for doing maintenance work on somewhat bigger fishing trawlers and the like. So that's good news. All right, what else? Well, of course, the World Cup was on, and I know a lot of you are not interested in rugby, but this is fairly major, so I will briefly go through the results. Japan, Russia. Japan home team, of course, they beat Russia 30-10. The New Zealand-South Africa game was actually a really good game, and we got to see it. We don't have TV at home, but we were down in Taupo, and fortunately had Sky, because the new streaming service from Spark had some fairly major glitches, which is a bit of a problem, as you would expect from Spark with the streaming. But anyway, the South African New Zealand game was a nail biter to start with. The New Zealanders spent the first 20 minutes sort of semi-zombie. It was almost as if they'd had something like cream donuts for breakfast. It was really, really bad. But then all of a sudden somebody flipped the switch and they did very well. But in the first 20 minutes, well, I don't know whether it was the first 20, the statistics were that the South Africans had 65% of the time in the New Zealand part, so they were very unfortunate not to get more than 3 points. But anyway, it was a very good game, well worth watching. France beat Argentina 23-21. That was close, and I don't know much about that. The Australian-Fiji game was a real nail-biter for Australia, because they were losing up until about 20 minutes from the end. They ended up winning 39-21 because they got a couple of late tries, but that was a real good game, evidently. England beat Tonga 35-3. Italy beat Namibia 47-22. I wonder if they had any defence on either side. 47-22. I didn't even know Namibia played football. Ireland beat Scotland 27-3. Boy, those Scots didn't do too well. So that was the roundup for results as they are at the moment. So nothing really unusual there in the end, although sometimes it took a while to get to the normal expected result. Well, those of you who have good memories will remember the 3 Mile Island partial meltdown at the nuclear facility in Pennsylvania. This was way back in 1979. Boy, 40 years ago. Anyway, it's shutting down this week, finally. It's no longer profitable, and evidently it's they're not getting the money to do some of the cleanup work needed, but they will have to find $1.2 billion to clean it up, which evidently will take decades. All the radioactive material will be removed by 2078. I don't think we'll be around to check on that one, but if you happen to come from Pennsylvania, then that's what's going to happen there. Okay. This radio is working really well today. I'm not sure why that is.
Don't complain.
No, I won't complain. I won't even mention it. Have you noticed that on boats? If you compliment something on a boat, the next day it breaks down. We've noticed that, so we never say it out loud. You know, we wouldn't say something like, "Oh, it's lovely to have a good working autopilot," because the next minute it hiccups. Okay, back to Whangarei. A humpback whale was in the Whangarei harbour on Saturday. near Munro Bay, which I think is towards the end. But anyway, it made its way out of the harbour about midday in spectacular fashion. It breached about 30 times, passing very close, within 10 metres from the anchored boats, and some of them fishing boats. That was a spectacular day. Well, of course, it was a beautiful day, and there was a couple of dolphins there as well, but they were sort of overshadowed by this performing whale. Much better news than the 4 pilot whales last week, which beached up further north in Ruakaka and died. And they managed to keep the rest of the mob out in the water though, so that was good. All right, we better go overseas for some news. The heavy rain in Texas, particularly around the Houston area, has caused hundreds of homes to be flooded, and a few people have actually lost their lives there. Interesting news from Poland. A huge World War II seismic bomb that was called the Tall Boy. It was the biggest bomb ever found there. It was in a waterway leading to, well, I won't pronounce it. It's one of these real Polish words. It starts SZCZ. I mean, it's absolutely impossible to know how to pronounce it. But anyway, it was in a waterway leading to the port of that particular town. The city has 42,000 people in it, and they may need to be evacuated because this thing, if it goes off, could affect an area of about 10 kilometres. So they are pondering that now as to what to do with it. They found it during an excavation in this waterway.
Yeah.
Okay, what else is there? Well, there's been demonstrations, the usual ones, Paris, Egypt, Hong Kong. The demonstrations there have moved to shopping plazas. Nicaragua.
Pretty violent in Hong Kong, isn't it?
Yes, it is getting fairly violent in Hong Kong. So not much different from there. The ones in Paris were they about climate change, I think. There's been gatherings all over the world, actually, with the whole climate business. The UN goes back into business this week, if you could call what they do business. But anyway, the UN National Assembly is reopening this week, and so all of the world leaders are gathering in New York to discuss things. Of course, the main item will be the potential conflict in the Middle East. The US has announced it's going to send more troops to the area. Iran reckons they have a plan for peace. Having started all this. But anyway, they have a plan for peace, but their new Navy commander has said that they will deliver a crushing reaction to any aggressive behaviour on their coastal areas and anywhere else. So that's going to be interesting. What else? Oh, the Philippines have had polio outbreak. Well, if you can call 2 cases of polio outbreak. So they're now into a big vaccine campaign. It's interesting, isn't it, that people get on top of these diseases and then they forget all about it and don't do anything, and then they pop back up again. New Zealand is having the same problem with measles, particularly in this Auckland area. Well over 1,000 people, and for some reason the measles now is causing young children to end up in hospital. So it's a fairly major thing, but it's sort of hard to work out why people don't vaccinate. Anyway, not something that I can do much about. Moving on to Indonesia. Well, this is an interesting one. Must have had a bit of flack about this because the Indonesian president has decided to delay the vote on a law banning extramarital sex. Now, they were going to convict people, throw them in jail for between 6 months and a year. That actually would be quite a good idea all over the world, wouldn't it? We'd get rid of a whole lot of politicians and out of the road and clean up the place.
Drop the birth rate down.
Yeah, we'll drop the birth rate down. It would sort of has a bit of merit, that idea. Anyway, so that's about it for the news of the world. Not a hell of a lot going on at the moment. Just a lot of yak. Thank you to Valak and Whistler and Lupan for your reports. Just a reminder, folks, particularly now, that it is quite useful for us to get these reports in to compare things with whatever modelling David is looking at, and he will, of course, be talking about your strong winds and when you might get rid of them. So with that in mind, I shall just do a pause to see if there's anybody with anything else, and then we'll move to weather. Not a sound or a squeak from anybody. This is kind of boring when you don't get anybody saying hello.
Oh, they said hello in the beginning.
Oh, they did, yes. Lucan did. All right, here's David.
Yeah, well, that's quite a bit of news, I'd say, and I don't know how your weekend was. I know it was windy up there, that's for sure. Ours, needless to say, was totally spectacular. My mate here, my lead-footed mate, well, we were at the Talpo racetrack, and she was doing her usual lead foot routine. And you have to remember, she had just broken her ankle, and it's healing. But it doesn't stop her. She was out there and making some very, very good times. She's a believer in the old saying in racing that you can't go fast if your foot's on the brake. So there you go. Broken ankle, doesn't matter. Don't use the brake anyway. So anyhow, since our atmosphere is giving you a little bit of grief, we might as well talk about the action up there and what's going on. We've got a very nice 500 ridge that's sitting over the upper Tasman, and a very sharp shortwave trough that lies over Tassie. So, as a reflection of what's going on in these upper levels, we find a high, surface high now, just north of North Cape, just as we talked about on Friday. The center, actually by lunch, the center is going to be about 31 south and 172 east. That's 31 and 172. Still strong, quite fresh. 1030 millibar, fresh winds. Not quite gale force, but in some areas actually there are gale force winds, but still providing plenty of wind. Remember the old rule of thumb, the last two numbers of the barometric pressure, if you're on the periphery of the anticyclonic flow, that represents roughly the wind strength of 1030 millibar, 30 knots of wind. And that's pretty much what forecasting is calling for. Now, under the shortwave trough, just to the south of the South Island, is a depression, not a severe one, but it is sending fronts northward. And by lunchtime, the first cold front is going to lie pretty much halfway up the South Island. Now, the front is going to stretch to Oz, making landfall there near 30 south, and that's about the Coffs Harbour area. So between Coffs Harbour and New Zealand is that frontal band. Now, those of you that are about to arrive on the Oz coast should see north to northeast winds in the 15-knot range. But south of Hervey Bay, it's going to pick up considerably because of this frontal band activity. We're looking at 20 to 25 knots, mostly northerly. So these are winds that are on the equatorward side of the front axis. And we do have a few people that are heading that way, so that I'll have to pay attention to. Now, up in the tropics, we've got two features. The main one, a strong frontal band from the Solomons to a weak depression near Tuvalu. We're seeing a few of these pop up every now and again. They never move very far from where we see them form, and that's probably going to be the case here. But we do have cyclonic flow there. Again, that's near Tuvalu. Then the trough continues on to Tokelau. Then it winds up being just to the south of the northern Cooks, doesn't arc at that point, and heads down to the southern Cooks. Then we have a very weak trough that runs east of the banks in Vanuatu to northern Vanua-Levu, just to the north of Vanua-Levu. Then that goes on to northern Tonga via Niue, actually. So that one doesn't quite have the degree of intensity that the other one has, but it is there. It is obvious on satellite imagery, and it will affect the weather to some extent if you're in that area. Now, looking at Tonga, a strong wind warning and small craft advisory has been issued by Tonga Met, so that's in force for all Tongan waters. Plus, a damaging heavy swell warning is in place for the key areas, Vavau, Hapais, Tonga Tapu. The winds late yesterday, as those there know, southeast 25 knots and higher. But today they're going to be easing just a little bit. I would say, well, easing 20 to 25 knots, if you can call that easing. Tuesday, though, you could expect east-southeast to southeast in the 20 knot range, so it does come down just a little bit. And by Wednesday, we should see a reasonable ease. I would call it easterlies around 15 knots. So there we go. That's the beginning of a little bit of relaxation on some of these winds. The actuals are not too bad at all early this morning. Vavau, these are at the airports. Vavau, southeast 5, scattered to broken, barometer 1019er. The Hapais, southeast at 8, scattered 1021 millibar, and Tonga Tapu, southeast 10, and broken 1022 on the barometer. And over to Fiji. Well, everyone went through the grinder this weekend, particularly yesterday, with the strong winds. Still fresh winds today, and again, that's all thanks to the high. That's to the south that we just talked about. Fiji Met does continue with a strong wind warning for all Fiji waters. They say you could expect southeast winds 20 to 30, gusting 35 in the various passages like Betuira, etc. All of this is bringing rough to very rough seas out on the open water and a moderate southerly swell. In fact, models are picking up 4 meters just to the south of Fiji, actually a fairly broad area in the northern southwest Pacific. Pretty nasty swells coming up from the south. Anyhow, virtually the same forecast for tomorrow, but we're going to start to see an ease. And Wednesday is going to be better yet. Somebody asked, when is all this going to stop? So it is starting to ease as our big pie is starting to drift to the east. Wednesday will probably be quite a nice day wind-wise for you, so you've got that to look forward to. Now, the various radar centers show very little in the way of returns, but as the day rolls on, don't be surprised by isolated showers. Particularly southwest Viti Levu is a bit damp. You can see that on the loop, quite a few returns at 5 a.m. this morning. Now, there's a few actual conditions, also early. Undue Point was southeast 25, barometer 1019. Yasawi Rawa, east-southeast 21, 1019. Vanua Balavu, southeast 18, 1023 millibar. And Nassori, southeast 7, not too bad there at the airport, 1021 millibar. Patuku, down there, southeast 19, barometer 1021. And Onoilau, southeast 13, and the barometer 1023, 1023. So moving over to Vanuatu, that shows scattered cloud on imagery this morning, mostly low-level cumulus, but nevertheless, these clouds can produce passing showers. So I think we're going to call the main centers partly cloudy with a chance of isolated showers, and these centers would be Lugaville, Port Vila, and Lenikai down there in Tanna. So make sure, though, that you tie down your hat. I'm looking at east-southeast to southeast winds, 25 knots, and a few areas 25 to 30 knots. Bit of an ease tomorrow. I'll call it east-southeast in the 15 knot range, and that'll be from Port Vila southward. But winds are still going to be strong north of Port Vila. I'm looking at 20 to 25 knots, and that in particular is going to affect the banks The banks do tend to get some strong winds, and that is going to continue tomorrow. Open water seas, we're looking at 2.5 to 3 meters. That's pretty rough, particularly when you consider the seamounts that are between the groups there in Vanuatu. It's very, very nasty traversing the different areas when conditions are like that. So nasty conditions, you may want to rethink what you're going to do unless it happens to be reading a book at anchor. And finally, to New Caledonia, imagery does show scattered cloud for the southern lagoon and the Loyalties. Fresh winds today. I would think by lunch we're looking at easterlies about 20 knots. And there's going to be a chance of showers for Lifu there in the Loyalties. Now later in the southern lagoon, later today, we'll see gusts getting up to 30 knots. So not a good day for the southern lagoon. Lighter air tomorrow, I think, northeast around 10 knots for the southern lagoon, shifting east-southeast to southeast by about dinner time. And Wednesday, not too bad, southeast 10 to 15. Going to be increasing a little bit later in the day on Wednesday, maybe 15 to 18 knots. But you can see the general trend is a bit of an ease. So that's all pretty good news. Actual conditions this morning are not good news. The outer reef, easterlies, 28 knots. Ile de Pan, east 20. Noumea, east 24. Barometer there, 1023.4, 1023.4. And over there in Lifu, in the Loyalties, east-southeast, 31 knots, east-southeast 31, barometer 1022, 1022. So there you are. That's the weather conditions and forecast today, tomorrow. Hopefully you have a good day, and we'll chat with you tomorrow. And here's the chief.
Okay, well, David will just expand on a trip from, where is it, Vila to Newcastle shortly, but with a few more reports coming in on streaming. Good morning to the streaming folk. Epi, local talent, reported last night it got to 36 knots, still breezy there. Eagles Wings, Port Vila, currently cloudy, 14 knot east-southeast with gusts, 1019.5. And Jasper 2, Malakati Bay, boy, up to 40 knots last night, 15 to 25 currently. So interesting. Hopefully all the rally boats in Lifu decided to spread themselves out. Boy, you guys, there's been some reports of a very close anchoring, really, really silly in conditions like this. So hopefully a bit of seamanship showed itself over the weekend. What else? There's some of those boats, they must have left because they're heading off today, was it? Or maybe yesterday. Anyway, let's have a look at going from Port Vila to New Caledonia tomorrow. Any ideas? Or by the sound of it, you would probably put it off till the next day. I'll pass the microphone.
Actually, tomorrow doesn't look too bad. We talked about a bit of an ease, and that trip is looking mostly easterlies, and that's a very, very lucky direction. In fact, near Mare and Lifu, the winds may actually turn back to the northeast, so quite good. Now, the only problem is it's rough today and quite windy today. Now, you should monitor that, because there would be an opportunity if it does flatten out a bit to leave tonight, possibly. The models don't indicate that's a good idea, but just because they're saying that doesn't mean that's going to happen. So be ready to roll, and if it's looking decent where you are tonight, you might want to go. So tomorrow, easterlies getting close to the Loyalties, gets better yet, northeast. But if you don't do that, if you do wait till tomorrow, then you won't get there till Wednesday. And even at that point, it's not too bad. By then you'll be very close to the Loyalties. southeast winds, which will make it on the nose for you trying to get down there, but light from the standpoint of 10 to 15. Now, I don't know if you're stopping in Lifu or carrying on straight to Havana Pass, but anyhow, it really isn't too bad. It's reasonably good enough conditions to say you're lucky, because I haven't seen it really this nice in a while to do that trip. It can be a very nasty little trip. So there you go. Good luck on that. We'll be interested to get your conditions, please, if you do go, and we'll check out how close these models are to with the actuals. So here's the chief.
And some information is coming on cruising. The Go West Rally has delayed their check-in at Lifu to the 30th, so that would fit in with what you've just said rather well if they delay leaving till at least tonight. So good, sensible decision there on the Go West Rally. Good to know that some rallies anyway look at the weather and do a sensible decision based on the weather. Eagles Wings report that a cruise ship that was in Port Vila over the weekend decided not to visit Mystery Island in Vanuatu, down there in Anishem. The cruise ship folks were told that 40 knot winds were expected there, and it was going to be too rough for small boats. So all good news. Thank you for the information coming through there. And yep, we've got another boat on. They're going to leave Fiji on Tuesday. So things are settling down a bit, so people will be on the move again, which is good. All the wind's in the right direction. All right, that's about it from us. If there's anything else, we'll attack it tomorrow, and we'll hopefully you'll all enjoy a day here. Oh, Pilgrim's checked in. Good morning to Ron and Cheryl there. Overcast, some fleeting rain at times. They're up there at 15, 36, 15, 36 and 16, 7, 10. True wind speed hard to tell because they've got a good sheltered spot. They're at Ratu Island by Marlow. So they're sitting things out there and then going to move on, and they can hear us in Vanuatu. Thank you for that report. Yeah, it looks as if the signal's going out well, so hopefully today you did get to hear all about the weather, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. Okay.